And joining us today for more on this is Natalie Melnyczuk, a Euro-Atlantic security consultant and lecturer at Wayne State University. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So a lot of headlines involving Russia, many of them mentioned in Skylar's story there. Let's start with the Americans facing espionage charges. We have heard this before. Michigan native Paul Whelan still in a Russian prison camp right now. Is there anything to these charges? It almost feels silly to ask.
No, these are really unsubstantiated and fabricated charges. Russia has a long history of holding people hostage whenever it pleases. The media is a traditional target for Russia, and Western journalists are a particular favorite target of Russia, especially authoritarian Russia. Today, the State Department issued a very stern warning to all Americans that may still be left in Russia or contemplating travel to Russia not to go. Or if you are in Russia, you are to leave immediately. The situation's really tense within Russia. Russian citizens are not safe there, and American citizens certainly are not.
And that says a lot that that warning was issued today, just about how tense things really are. Let's talk about Alexei Navalny and his passing. A lot of people not surprised by that, even though it was very unfortunate.
Even Alexei Navalny, we can say, was probably not surprised. He had recorded a video to be played when he would be killed. He indeed was taken out by, we think, the Russian authorities earlier this week. The proof hasn't come out yet because his mother has been trying for 6 days to get his body, and the authorities will not turn it over. So it can't be autopsied yet, but the suspicion is very high that the authorities did something to take him out prematurely. He was a very young man.
Navalny's wife has been speaking publicly, releasing video messages. Just incredible courage, also seems incredibly risky.
She has definitely been a partner to Alexei Navalny. She actually did a lot of counseling with him. She helped him forge his policies, and she has taken up his mantle officially as of a few days ago. She started her own Twitter feed, and she has made very clear to the Russian authorities at the Munich Security Conference that she will continue Navalny's fight for a free Russia, a democratic Russia. And today, Russia's spokesperson had made very clear that Mrs. Navalnaya, the widow of Navalny, that she is now a target of the Russian authorities. They have now officially and openly threatened her.
Wow, and all of this is happening as the war is still going on in the background. What do you make of all of this continuing to just avalanche and become such a problem?
This is definitely benefiting somebody, and we always need to ask, when we see strange things going on anywhere, internationally or at home, who does this benefit? The chaos in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, the stalling tactics within our own U.S. House on the Ukraine aid bill benefits only one party. The answer is always the same, and that is Vladimir Putin and autocratic Russia. This does not benefit the United States nor democracy on the planet. It doesn't benefit Europe. As we show any weakness, not only does Russia grow stronger, but its alliances with what is being called the axis of chaos or the axis of upheaval, Russia, China, North Korea, grows stronger. They now need each other. They are exchanging technology, weapons, and cheap oil and gas. So as they grow stronger, the West, at this very moment, might be growing weaker. And the most important part of that question, will we grow stronger or weaker, is the U.S. aid package for Ukraine. The $61 billion held up since October in Washington due to really just partisan politics. That is preventing Ukraine from maintaining its territory and pushing Russian forces out of Ukraine. They're already suffering. They're rationing ammunitions on the ground in Ukraine. For every 5 shells that Russia can fire, courtesy of North Korea, for every 5 Russia fires, the Ukrainians can fire 1. They had to give up the town of Avdiivka a few days ago. They were being encircled by Russian troops because they're short of ammunition to repel them. Russia, in the meantime, has just started accepting over 400 ballistic missiles that it's receiving from Iran. These are high precision weapons. They can fly about 435 miles maximum. They will be devastating for Ukraine if Ukraine's air defense systems fail, and without further supplies from the United States, the air defense systems will fail. And the casualties will be primarily civilians, as they have been for over 2 years. Well, actually 2 years and 3 days. It'll be 2 years of an intense all-out war, but it's a 10-year war. The invasion happened in 2014 of Russian forces into Ukraine's Crimea and the east.
Yeah. That Ukraine aid package you mentioned, it's really become quite a political football in Washington, D.C. And recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that he would prefer President Biden to win the election this fall as opposed to President Trump. It seems like we always have to ask, when Putin says something, is there another motive? Should we take that at face value? What do you think is behind that statement?
You're absolutely right to ask. First of all, that $61 billion package is $48 billion of that goes directly to the Pentagon, and it's spread out between more than 30 U.S. states that are defense producers. So 48 billion of the 61 billion requested does not leave this country. And there are 400 U.S. personnel that provide oversight on the spending of that money. It's very tightly monitored. The state of Michigan, for example, has received almost $800 million that's correct, at this point. So they would be getting more. Some states have received over $2 billion for the defense industry, new job creation, rebuilding the military industrial base that our country has been losing over the past few decades. But the question of what is President Putin saying? This is the realm of disinformation. In these new times of hybrid warfare, information and disinformation used to confuse or wrongly persuade people is a really vital weapon to autocrats. And Putin uses it all the time. I'm quite certain Putin does not support President Biden, but he realizes the West has caught on that he does support President Trump. So now he's trying to confuse the debate. There is nothing about President Biden that President Putin would support. Biden has stood strong with the Euro-Atlantic Alliance, NATO. Biden has pushed for funds from the beginning to help our allied partner, Ukraine, and to protect our West European allies in NATO, our East European allies in NATO, and most importantly, to protect the United States. This is in the U.S. national security interest. Europe's security is our security. If Ukraine is unable to stop Russia, the United States, the risk of us being in a war engaged with Russia grows extraordinarily, and the risk grows right now as this package stalls. So Putin would not like to see a continued Biden administration. He would like to see the package die on the Hill, which has passed the Senate as of early last week by a vast majority. And it is assumed when it comes to the floor of the House, it will also have majority support. It just needs to get to the floor of the House.
Well, Natalie, your insight is invaluable. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next time. This is Natalie Melnyczuk. Thanks for joining us.